Welcome to Vidjagame Apocalypse. I'm your host, Michael Raparez. Who else is here with me?
Chris Antista.
Dave Rudden.
Matthew J.
And we're going to be talking about the top 5 Mario Kart games of all time.
The series is officially 25 years old. Yeah. Every single version of the game has been pretty stellar. And I don't know that a lot of series can even say that.
Number 5.
Mario 64 considered the best by a lot of people.
I think
It's the one that's most fondly remembered.
Yeah.
Which is what I'll say. Because I've tried to go back and play this. I think it came out on the Wii Virtual Console or Wii U Virtual Console. And it's not. It has not aged well. I mean, it's aged the worst. I think of any.
It doesn't hold. It holds up the worst.
Yes.
It's like a lot of games from that time where just 4 people playing a game at the same time on a TV was mind blowing.
Yeah. That was really cool. Like this game and GoldenEye sustained me through college.
That's one of the things I want to talk about with this series because for some reason I thought we were going to start with the first, but I think Mario Kart is more important to Nintendo than Mario or Zelda in terms of having their systems sell and why they end up becoming the best sellers.
I mean, when you take a new system out, someone says, "Is Mario Kart on this?"
But before that expectation was there, I think Nintendo uses this innocuous, fun-loving, inclusive little series to Trojan horse new features that their other games don't. Nintendo 64 launched, I think, in earlier in the year of 1996. Mario's great. Star Wars: Shadow of the Empire, whatever you want to say about it.
Wave race.
This came out. This came out at the end of the year during the Christmas season, right in December, and Nintendo 64 is the first system, maybe other than Jaguar, to have 4 controller ports, and the first one to really use them. Yes, you can say they did it with Wave Race, but Mario Kart was a game everybody knew they could play, knew they wanted to play, and they'd been selling those expensive-ass controllers for years. And I think not till GoldenEye did we realize how great the system was for 4-player standard support. But that was to get a Mario Kart game and play with 4 players was mind blowing. Mind blowing. I think it's the birth of in a way multiplayer, but 4-player multiplayer.
It's the ugliest.
Well, the weird thing is, it's that, of all the aspects of this, visual aspects of this game, I think the sprites have aged the best. In that, when it came out, I wasn't entirely sure. Wait, are these 3D or are they 2D sprites? Because they move so fluidly. They're really well animated, and so it can be kind of hard to tell. Are these just moving from right to left? And then there's an illusion of depth on some of them. So if you're playing as Bowser and you're watching the spikes on his back, watching them move relative to his head can make you think you're looking at a 3-dimensional object. And it still holds up remarkably well today. Just watching it on YouTube,
no, it
still
does.
Not entirely sure.
And I know that Dave and I, maybe even you, are in the camp of for some reason this skipped us for some reason. I don't remember exactly
more of a
why.
Crash Team Racing guy.
I remember I traded in my N64 pre-order to get a Saturn because they had 3 free games, so I didn't bother to get that.
I played the shit out of this in college again, and having an N64 when it came out made me briefly one of the most popular kids in school. And this was introduced a bunch of important things. I think the death matches have been part of Super
the
Nintendo
balloon battles.
Yeah. And those came back and were really cool in 64. The kind of more textured terrain, I guess, was important. This introduced drifting, which would come into later games in a bigger way.
It's the biggest part of the strategy of Mario Kart.
You drift long enough, and then you build up a boost. And that first appeared here. The much maligned spiny shell or blue shell first appeared here.
What a trade! We lost the feather and we got that.
But I know the same regard people hold Smash Bros. Melee as the best in that series. I know there's a ton of people that hold this aloft as the best Mario Kart, and they might be right.
Yeah, it's definitely among the best.
We'll get to why I can understand that, because the Mario Kart series has become something a little different.
But I wanted to say, not only did I have this on N64, but I was lucky enough to be near a game shop that would import stuff from Japan. So I got to play the Japanese version at least a few weeks before it came out in the U.S. And so when I did play the U.S. version, I was a little bit shocked by the difference in the voices. So, for example,
Charles Martinet.
Yeah, he usually does the voice of Mario.
I think he was in both.
Yeah.
But then there were other actors for the other characters. So somebody on YouTube put together comparisons between each of these. For example, here's Luigi, first the American or international version, and then the Japanese version.
I'm a Luigi.
I'm a gay.
Number one.
Luigi is the top!
Whoa.
Falsetto Luigi.
This is before Luigi kind of became stupid. When that was his defining character trait, like afraid and stupid.
Henry had defined it as feminized. Like Luigi got mad feminized as the Mario series went forward.
And yet he had more of a falsetto before that happened. But here's Princess Peach.
Yeah, Peaches got it.
Yeah, Peaches got it!
I thought it'd be the opposite. Wait. I thought it'd be the opposite. They'd be like, Peaches got it. And she's like, Peaches got it.
No.
So a baby, a Japanese baby.
But I like playing over music when I remember hearing like, what is she saying? Like, Peaches got it! But then the get lady, it's get ready.
Oh! I thought it was like Lady Get.
We're all gonna get lady.
And finally, and perhaps the most striking, Wario.
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.
Got it.
Wario, I'm gonna win.
Ooh.
Yeah. Just sounds like some rando American.
Is he saying I've got to win? Like, is there a backstory?
Got to win.
Was Charles
I must win, my children.
Was Charles Martinet on vacation, holding out for more money? Like,
did he do more? Did he?
Maybe
do
he wasn't.
Yeah, he does
maybe he
Wario.
wasn't worldwide at the time. Maybe that happened.
Well,
later.
Mario was, I think, is a thing, and he was like he's the voice of Mario in Mario 64 in Japan and America, like the same voice.
But I think this was one of the first times that Wario kind of stepped off of the Game Boy and onto like into the larger Mario universe.
Good for him. He deserved.
My favorite thing about it is that in this universe, all the Mario characters are like celebrities. Like people go to watch them race each other, and they're like on billboards and stuff, and they build
tracks
whole,
are named after.
Yeah, they build whole stadiums like to worship
Like,
these
I think
people.
Mario has his own brand of cigarettes, Mario Row.
I don't even think Dale Earnhardt has a NASCAR track named after him, and he died doing that. And he was the best at it.
He
until
should.
he died.
I don't know much about him other than I've seen Calvin peeing on his number, which I have on my car, peeing on Mario Kart Super Circuit.
Number 4.
It's a divisive one.
Yeah.
If I recall, I got a 7.9 from IGN.
It's so good. It's so different and interesting.
And that's why I put it. I think I ranked it number 5 on my own list, where it's like I would never go back to it, but I like what it did.
But I give 64 all the credit in the world for making Mario Kart synonymous with 4 players. Like, that's crazy. Even if you think about it now, it's hard to get 4 people in the same room.
Yep.
It was hard to have 4 controllers, but
you know why that is?
Oh, well, this one could be 16.
It's because we're adults and because there's the internet and all that shit, but I thought this was a really interesting way to make 4-player work again in a completely different way, and also
you still do still do standard 4 players.
but you could do 4 players on 2 split screens.
Yeah, couldn't you do 16 players in this, or 8 players?
Yeah,
Which one
like
was
it just kept going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Why we love it and other people hate it, it's the first and only Mario Kart game with co-op. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's absolutely nuts. And it wasn't. I think Nintendo was too afraid to make it more intricate, where you have one person who drives, and then you have another person on your back. Anybody seen the MSC3K Side Hackers? Anybody have one guy hanging out on the back who can lean into turns a little more? So you could I don't want to like an early version, not girlfriend mode. I know that's a bad term, but that's sort of what it was. You were not in control, but you could help out the player in subtle ways that could improve your performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overlying issue is that it's not that difficult to deploy weapons in Mario Kart. Like if you especially if you've been playing since like 25 years ago up until now, you know, like, okay, I should shoot this one out of the back because I'm in first place, and I can do it at the exact right time. I'll destroy this red shell.
The controls are simple enough.
Yeah, but yeah,
there
it's
were
just
other things you could
the
help them
gameplay
out with,
doesn't warrant needing a second
But you
player
could.
for it.
It
wasn't all weapons.
Yeah.
It wasn't all weapons. It was leaning into turns.
Yeah.
So the other person could shift their weight in the turns, but it didn't matter significantly enough. And I really thought when I saw a preview of it, I thought they were going to allow for like road rash shit.
Yeah.
Like you're next to someone, even if you don't have an item, Yoshi could tongue someone in the ear, like right next to you, and that didn't end up happening. And I think that because they're Nintendo, they shied away from the idea that like, no, you really got to learn how to lean into these skids and help your partner.
Yeah. This should even like, why isn't this a mode in the new ones or something? Like I know they'd have to remodel the carts. And stuff.
For single player, it didn't really make a difference
at all.
The team dynamic was more around like, well, each set of characters, each team of characters gets a specific power up. Like the baby Mario and Luigi get like a chain chomp that drags them around. Bowser and Bowser Jr. get like a special spiked shell, and if you if you had two of the same, it wouldn't really make a difference. Like, but if you mixed and matched from different teams, then you could have two specific power-ups, and then you could they could swap between the driver's seat and the back.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But I don't know, like in the vein of like the same reason I went to bat for Mario Kart 64, because I know a ton of you listening grew up playing that together. This revitalized that in a world of Halo, and when we had access to PCs and online multiplayer. This revitalized, dude, let's go, we're 22 years old, let's go over to Justin's house and all play Mario Kart all night. And it took Nintendo to do that again, like to make all that relevant again. And it was so much fun. As much fun as you had with 64, we had as adults with Double Dash. And I haven't really had that on a couch co-op level since then.
Well, I was still 14 when this came out, so I was in the opposite.
Were you like?
I was still in
alone?
I was in your 64 era. Like I was still like. I was a young man and I enjoyed it. And I even had there were two of us, me and a friend of mine, in our group of friends. We weren't allowed to be on the same cart because we would just win. That's how much we loved that game and loved the dynamic of that game.
Do we need to face this logo toward the camera?
They are not a sponsor.
Are we sponsored by Olympia
us?
Beer?
But
We make Olympia for times like these, and we brew it with the best water we know, the naturally pure artesian brewing water of Tumwater, Washington. It's the water that makes it Olympia.
But we'd like one. We're available.
Sure.
So we're saying Olympia.
It's the water.
Yeah. But yeah, I have more positive friend-based memories of Double Dash than almost any other Mario Kart, save for one, which I'm sure we'll get to. But it happened way late in the game when Nintendo was ignoring online.
This is also kind of when, maybe for some people, the series got too complicated because the original and 64 and Super Circuit, you just had your cart. But this time, like, they added choosing a cart, and I remember there was the weight issue. So, like, if you had two babies on it, then you could have, like, you could get one of the carriage carts, and it would be super fast. But if you had two, like, Bowser and Donkey Kong, then you're gonna have to get like one of the bigger cars to fit them both.
But what if I want both Bowser and Donkey Kong to fit into a baby carriage?
Yes.
Do it. Can't do it.
Damn it! I'm
Baby
hard
Bowser.
right now.
Baby DK.
But yeah, this was around the same time I think Hiroshi Yamauchi was infamously saying, like, consumers don't want online.
Even though we built a component because we had to, and just released it way late in the game.
Well, it's for the American market, just so they can play Phantasy Star, and nobody will play it because who can find?
But
a
it was
copy?
it was another slice of that Nintendo magic, where like, I guess I don't need online for this. There's something else, and only Nintendo delivered on it.
I can huddle close to sweaty bodies and play in person.
But that was awesome. I think there should be in the future some thought given to co-op Mario Kart. It's already a pretty level playing field, and I'm sure we'll get to talk about that when we talk about the original. But like it was a really cool way for people to work together in Mario Kart, and that doesn't.
I just wish there was a little bit more for the other person to do.
Yes, I wish they would have added a little more for them to do. But you could do shit. You could make turns a little better, but not significantly better.
I did hear a lot of people talking about blue sparks. Like, I want blue sparks because I guess previously, like, the drifts just built up like smoke, and that's when you knew you had a mini boost. And this one, it's like there are like three colors of sparks, and they go all the way up to
they're
blue.
up to pink now.
yeah, I think they're pink now.
Yep.
Anyway.
But one of the most important things about Mario Kart is the multiplayer aspect, and this is the first game to fucking lean into that in a significant way. Wasn't able to do this research. But I'll still call this the first significant online first-party Nintendo game ever made.
And not just online. Four of us could just pull out our DSs and without any cords or anything, and just on a bus or on a train.
Still do that. Nobody gives
or on my
a
friend's
shit.
porch.
So
it sucks.
I never played this one extensively, and I think I remember reading the online was a little bit iffy because people it was snaking.
So
people,
I did, and I like I did with MK7. I ran through unlocking everything, beat the shit out of everything.
And there's a lot to unlock.
This is fucking awesome, and it's years late. And then I'm like, and then after that, multiplayer, baby, let's do this. And I go in there, and it's just like a sea of cheaters in a broken system. And I remember talking to Brett about it, and like, oh yeah, snaking. It's just it's a thing. Like if you don't learn how to cheat, you can't play online because the only people playing online 2 years.
I remember turning it on day one, and it was just Japanese people. Like it's just all. Maybe it was late at night or whatever.
But you could still find people. But it's like, how am I being lapped? I finished this on expert
What
mode.
is snaking exactly? Is it like advanced, like
it is
like
power drifting, but you do it constantly.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a thing any other online game in the universe, even at that time, somebody would have fixed.
It would have been patched out, but
it's
Nintendo and patches.
And it's like, what? We made it online. We're not doing anything else.
Back
Go
then,
to
the only
McDonald's.
Nintendo patches you could get were at the Nintendo World Store in New York City. Hey,
And this is with this and like Tetris DS and things. This is and with merchandise. This is the beginning of Nintendo starting to capitalize on nostalgia. So it's when you first started to see the Mario 8-bit sprite everywhere as like their icon and that kind of stuff. And this one they put Rob and Dry Bones in it. So it's like they start to branch out a little bit. Like Dry Bones is not that much branching out, but it was still really cool. And they put Rob the robot. So for those of us who didn't know who that was, we went online and like Googled, like before Wikipedia, and Googled like what's Rob the robot.
Nintendo been around for a long time.
wow, what a terrible idea!
And then that led to him like getting an amiibo and being in Smash Brothers and being like one of the icons of Nintendo. When at the time it was like a weird curio, something you'd have to look up.
This was also when the series started doing the retro tracks, where you could
Exactly.
play through
Yeah.
modern versions of like
And
Super
And they had
Nintendo,
all of them. You could play through.
GBA.
Yeah, you could play through the GBA one, the
And
N64 one.
So that's why I would argue in defense of Mario 64, because it's one of the last. This is all new shit. I love that what Mario Kart is now is a greatest hits package, and we'll talk about that in a second. But like, that's why 64 I think deserves a little bit of credit. These are all new tracks, an all new system, and every Mario Kart since DS has been like, let's celebrate the series. And I don't know a lot of other series that do that to the extent that the Mario Kart series
Sonic,
does
but in a bad way.
but like, you know, in certain Mario games it's 50-50. It's new and then a shitload of remastered and old stuff, and that's awesome. Especially having both of them in the same package.
Well, it's not the only classic Mario. Or the characters that you mentioned are not the only classic Mario characters to appear here. There's also one that comes with this sound.
What? It sounded like Link jerking off in water.
I mean, there is something being squirted.
Tell me more.
A blooper
Is it-
comes
oh,
and
it's-
squirts
I'll
ink
say
all
that.
over
Oh,
the
it's the-
screen.
yeah.
It's the squids.
Oh, what an awful addition!
Yes.
The ancestors of the Splatoon squids.
It's that power up is awful, but manageable. Like it's I don't know.
Well,
I never
even-
liked
You can
it.
like-
still drive. it.
Like everything in these games is awful but manageable. Like I
true,
went the
that's
longest
true.
time thinking like, oh, the blue shells are like, what the fuck? They completely throw off the balance of the game. But there are a bunch of ways to counter them.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even without the super horn that
Slow
came
down.
out later.
or that like if the guy in second place is too close to you, he's getting blown
Or
up in the radius.
If you can slow down and let second place pass you, you can like trigger a boost at exactly the right moment. It changes from game to game, but there's some very consistent.
I mean, I can
strategies
count on
for
my
it.
hands the times I've successfully gotten away from a blue shell.
But it has happened.
It has happened.
All right, well, let's move on to our next and possibly most divisive entry.
Number 2.
Really?
Oh.
You're gonna put
Yeah.
the OG up here?
Yeah,
Hell
the first
yeah.
one. Good music.
Yeah.
Makes me very happy.
I mean, I think in terms of accessibility, this one holds up incredibly well.
It
Like,
does. It's
doesn't-
still fun.
It doesn't
It's
have
on the SNES Mini.
yes, yes. It doesn't have the bells and whistles of a lot of the later ones, but it is still just like pure fun. Like I understand what I'm doing here. I can race through these very flat tracks at top speed.
You still hop.
Yeah, you can still hop. I mean that was always like
You got the feather, which was like out of the series for so long,
Nuts. Yeah.
which I just
back
love.
now. But
Yeah.
like that's how. But the feather was so important because it was
And it-
representative of Mario World, which was kind of symbolic of the Super Nintendo.
and it laid down so many fundamentals that we now just think of as like, oh, these are the trappings of the any kart game or mascot
but this
racer.
is the first kart game.
For example,
Ding.
Randomized items.
Yes.
It's just nuts to think about in a world with no kart games. Nintendo. If you were told Nintendo was making this, you would be mad in 1991,
92.
92.
I don't think anyone was mad.
We weren't mad, but the
Well,
idea,
we didn't know that
the
spin-offs were a bad idea.
yeah,
back
the
then.
idea is so fucking far out there to make a Mario racing like a family-friendly racing game.
And when I say spin-offs, I don't mean I mean game spin-offs, not spin-offs when you go into a banana and then spin off.
Yeah.
And to
it-
date, these were like the highest res, like nicest looking sprites we had seen of the Mario characters.
Yeah.
Like they were the biggest, nicest looking Mario.
Probably the best ever sprite of old school Donkey Kong.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the last time you'll see Donkey Kong
Fat
Jr.
baby
in,
Don-
his,
yeah.
in his white onesie.
Yep.
And
The wife beater for some reason.
Like I was saying, it seemed, if I'm going to guess, and I've read some stuff about the development. It has, I think there's like 15 people on the development team. It's made in a few months. That's really awesome.
It is very basic in some respects. Like,
It is.
coins are embedded in the ground.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're not even
Like-
floating items.
Yeah.
Thwomps are floating items, but they're much smaller. They're like these cylinders that just come down rather than like these the spiky things that we all saw in Super Mario.
And you
World.
can't even play it in full screen, I think, right? When you're playing single player,
Right,
it's
yeah.
half of it is
Use
you,
your
and then
rear
half
view
of it is
mirror.
the map.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't need a map. It's nice to
Because-
know where they are in relation to me, but
I
still.
think because this is Nintendo trying to like really stick it to a time when they had more competition in the console business than any other time. There's a bunch of people trying to make consoles. Only Nintendo had Mode 7.
Yes.
And other than Pilot Wings and F-Zero, nothing really utilized. Well, how does this make games different? I'm like, well, look at this fucking Mario Kart game. You can't
even
do this
say-
on Genesis.
Look at Castlevania 4 with the way that boss gets bigger every time you hit it.
The soundtrack, it laid the groundwork for the entire series, but it still has its own kind of feel, like that kind of Caribbean tropical feel, like with the race finish music.
And-
Bowser's Castle has the same music or a similar music to Super Mario World, but like Rainbow Road, that's like all new. The main track theme, that's also kind of new.
Yeah.
And they could have just borrowed everything from Mario World, but no, they kind of created their own little thing there.
No, we were
which is
talking
pretty
about that
neat.
in our Rabbids stream. That there's not a lot of Nintendo nodding to itself in this game, even though this is the first true celebration. Like, no, it's fucking everybody. You play Mario World. There's not a bunch of nods to old Mario games, but there are here, and there are a bunch of like characters. Donkey Kong and Mario had not appeared together in fucking years.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and here he is in his Donkey Kong Jr. form, I believe, in his in his singlet Big Show.
I think-
It was Donkey Kong Jr.
I can't imagine this is the first Mario offshoot spin-off game, but it's the first. It's the most significant.
I mean, yeah, besides like
first one that
golf
mattered.
and shit
Was-
where it's like.
yeah.
But golf that had a Mario in it.
Yeah, golf that had Mario in it.
But,
Type Mike Tyson's Punch Out,
even
which
then,
has
like,
Mario in
yeah,
it. But
Dr. Mario, which
yeah.
you know, he's a doctor.
Sure, but an ensemble thing, which now, if you're a Nintendo fan, that's like half of what Nintendo does. Is like stick Mushroom Kingdom characters.
I believe it's pronounced Nintendo's.
Nintendo's with Snegadong. I can't. You're bad at marketing. I can't say that at all. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best version of Mario Kart. It just is. But it's I think it's sort of unfair because unlike the rest of the Mario series, like Galaxy, that's the last significant Mario game I can remember. It isn't totally building upon and using the DNA of every Mario game that came before. It has to be entirely new and different. And whereas Mario Kart now is like, well, this is just the best version of it. Here's a bunch of the old tracks. Here's a bunch of the old characters. It's
got Link in it.
Characters.
yeah.
It's got,
got Link.
I
And,
mean,
and it's
yeah.
got the motorbikes from Mario Kart Wii. It's got.
and I should have done more research on this, but the thing Nintendo Trojan horse with the innocuous Mario series here is DLC. I think they had some DLC in some games on the DS. This is the first significant DLC plan for a Nintendo console. They snuck it into Mario Kart. That evil and nefarious keep charging me DLC, and people the news came out and like, yeah, fuck yeah, we would do this all the time. Never stop making Mario Kart.
This is the
stuff.
Mario Kart that finally broke down and like made it
Yes.
more than just the Mario universe. Like there's a Zelda track, there's an F-Zero track.
Yeah.
For some reason,
There's
there's the kids from Splatoon. I don't want to drive as them, but
I
thank
know, I
you for
hate
putting
that
them.
There's transforming cars,
Yeah,
like in
Transforming
Mario Kart
cars.
7.
And I hate that Laser
Sonic
Time, the
All-Stars
YouTube
Racing.
channel's been around long enough. I made a top 5 Mario Kart clones, the good clones of Mario Kart, and Sega, and we talked about that.
Yeah,
Sega
the
and
Transformed,
Sonic transformed.
We
like,
actually did a similar segment on here that was it Block Hardy?
Yeah.
Was the name of the episode.
and just the idea that when I saw the Sonic kart racing game, it's a good game, and it's this huge celebration of everything
Super
Sega does.
good.
And it made me so mad that Nintendo's like, Mushroom Kingdom, that's the only place it's set, and that's the only people who get to play. Like, fuck this. This is
Yeah.
not canon. We don't. No one's confused by how we got to Mario Kart and
Yeah.
I
wondering
won't be happy till I can play as Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
what portal they went through to be in a rate like living in a world of.
The only thing I'm really upset about with Mario Kart 8 is, I mean, of course, Link is great DLC. Animal Crossing characters, okay. But before Splatoon, you
like
could have
Splatoon?
done Metroid,
Yeah.
Punch-Out, a ton of other games
they also-
that have like way more
But
fan
I understand
cash.
because this is like the new popular game that they like, characters have immediate crossover.
But
appeal.
it's not going to make me
as
spend
opposed to
$10.
stuff that appeals to nostalgic people like us.
In defense of that, this is the first Mario Kart game where not racers but tracks. F-Zero and Excitebike are acknowledged in the most significant way either of those series have been recognized in the last decade.
Because Mario Kart has eaten those series up.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason there to really have a new F-Zero.
Yeah, we should say
because it would cannibalize Mario Kart. There's no reason to have another
I think
Excitebike.
We talked about that a long time ago.
Or Excite Truck or Excite Box.
Miyamoto doesn't like F-Zero.
Yeah.
Because F-Zero, the evolution that took was into a more hardcore, unapproachable, less family-friendly game, and Mario Kart is where they wanted to go. But that F-Zero track is fucking awesome. That rescoring of the what's that theme called? It's not Mute City. It's fantastic.
Sonic!
That was also weird because they stole the super horn.
They call it the super horn.
But if Mario Kart 8 hadn't have existed, I could say almost all this shit about Mario Kart 7 because that's
true.
That too.
Yeah.
But this is even better because it's HD, 1080p, 60 frames a second. In Mario Kart 7, 60 frames a second.
It uses tilt controls.
I'm using tilt
I
controls.
hope with Mario Kart 9, listening to you guys talk about it, I'm kind of hoping now that the next one is just let's take a Smash Brothers approach. Let's have a bunch of tracks based on different characters in Nintendo franchises. Let's just go all out.
Dude, a Splatoon track, is that not in Deluxe? It might be, but...
Let's go with a ZB's track for Metroid.
Yeah, or you can just, here's a dark track, it's Devil World. The kids won't know. The adults will. It's
Sweet
Devil
Home.
A lot of
Give me a Sweet
American,
Home track.
even old farts like us don't know about Devil World.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
And I
know about Devil World.
I told a story on Bonus Time, this week's exclusive Patreon show, patreon.com/Laser Time. I played Mario Kart in the arcade at Dave & Buster's, and it's like the whole world recognizes this shit. And, and the arcade version is incredibly popular, and it sucks seeing it's Pac-Man! And that dumb drum guy that most Americans don't know.
From the taiko drumming game?
Yeah. No, from the Namco drum.
Ringo Starr. Just say his name. He's famous.
I hung it on me MKTV, and that's another dumb feature that didn't quite work out well, but it is still
It
fun.
was great for memes for a month or so.
Yes, it adds a replay function.
A side-eye Luigi. Fuck you, I threw a shell at you.
What it looked like to me, somebody in Nintendo was fighting the right fight in terms of being able to upload and share your race footage, except they stopped at the sharing, but you can still go back and look at replays. That's a first for the series, and it's introduced in 8, and it's really well done in Deluxe.
I should say I said taiko, not taito.
Taiko.
The taiko drums.
Taiko from Penny.
Sorry.
But yeah, seeing Pac-Man in the series, why don't you treat this like Smash Brothers? Crash Bandicoot's not getting another racing game. That's probably not going to happen. Throw him in a Mario Kart game.
Yeah,
why not?
He's in Skylanders now. That's on Nintendo platforms, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
And if he's in Mario Kart, can he kiss Mario?
Yes.
I have some fanfic you might want to read.
Shadow Sonic. There's that stupid Nintendo or Sega Olympics partnership. Why can't we get Sonic?
Yeah, put Sonic in there.
Yeah, they're not making any more Sonic and Racing Transform.
They
games.
should, because it's really, really good, but they won't.
Yeah.
I think it would be a really good place, and it's a series that we weirdly welcome for being iterative. They don't introduce a lot of new shit in Mario Kart games. It's just enough to be there and represent the franchise well.
It's like a console launch. Wherein I want a bunch of new stuff, but I want all my old stuff too.
I want the old stuff in the Mario Kart game. Whereas like a new Halo game, you'd be pissed as fuck if you're playing through half the old game, but you're not in a Mario Kart game because there's always some reason to make it new. And since this is, I don't know how much more HD you can get. I don't know how. Oh, you can fix the online.
You can get
4K.
extremely HD.
Can you add more saxophones?
VR.
Possible.
5K saxophone?
I want to die if I die in the game. Can we do that?
Yeah, like permadeath. There you go. That's what they can add. They could be the Dark Souls of Mario Kart games. That'd be great.
Randomized tracks. You can get Mario roguelike.
But
that'd be cool.
No, that'd be awful.
It's almost unfair to call it the best game, but it is. It's the best representation of the franchise so far, and I don't see how future games won't be that as well. MK9 will be that too. Hopefully, let's see what they add.
Yeah. Every time you say MK9, I think
I
you
know.
mean Mortal
So
Kombat
do I.
9,
I
the one that came out years ago.
That would be the reboot, I think, right? 9? But yeah, this game, if you own a Switch, buy it. Just guaranteed buy it. My girlfriend and I are rediscovering it. She's getting better than me, someone who doesn't like games. as she learns, like, no, you're not drifting appropriately. Once she learns that, I'm fucked. She keeps killing me, and we're playing on the plane together. Like in 2017, that's really cool. Well, I think it's iterative at this point. It's like fucking Madden. Like the latest Mario Kart's gonna be the best. Don't play the one before it. That's the way it is.
We will never rank Madden games. I'm just gonna say that.
I will do it right now. Madden 18, 17, 16.